Okay, we're gonna get going. Just people are still filing in, but we want to give our speakers enough time and you enough time for questions. Thanks for coming to our first spring financial confidence event. My name is Sally Schwartz. I'm the Associate Director for the Center for Financial Wellness. Today we have Jen Reed and her team. Jen is Vice President of Public Relations at Sound Credit Union, and she is responsible for building relationships with schools, universities, and the community. And she will introduce the team she brought today to talk about this awesome topic that we all need.
Thanks for having us, everybody. It's great to see you. I've seen some of your faces on campus. Sound comes here quite often to do exactly what Sally was talking about, really help build financial confidence for consumers and business owners. So we feel it's really important to offer lunch and learns like this, where we can come in and talk about different topics that really will benefit you. Specifically, anybody gone to buy a car and ran into some difficult times, just the whole negotiation process, right? There's a lot to know, the ins and outs, and our consumer lending team is here today to talk about that, what to know like before you go to a lot, what to know when you're talking to a financial institution about buying a car. So they are the gurus. I do not know everything. I need one of them to go with me when I go to buy a car, but they're here to talk about that today. And so please feel free to ask questions, because if one of you has a question about it, there's likely someone else in the room who has the same things. And at the same time, when everything's done today, if you please share with Sally and Hisuk other topics that you think you'd find interesting and beneficial to yourself and other students here on campus. We'd love to hear about those and bring those topics here and offer another lunch and learn. So please feel free to provide that feedback with that. But with that, I will turn it over to our amazing team here, Kathy, Vanessa, and Janelle.
Okay, good morning, everybody. We'll introduce ourselves first, and then we're going to jump right into this packet of information that you've got. My name is Kathy Pitzer, and I am the Indirect Lending Manager for Sound Credit Union. Indirect lending is a little bit of an interesting thing. A lot of people have probably never heard of it before. I've been in the car business for about 20 years, and indirect lending, what that means is when you go to a car dealership and you fill out an application, they have the opportunity to send it to banks or to credit unions. So it goes indirectly. If you don't go to the financial institution, the dealership sends it for you. So we handle automotive, RV, motorcycle, boat, off-road vehicles as well, anything that is titled. I have a team of folks that we do all of the processing and auditing and also the underwriting. And we have relationships with about 374 auto dealers across Washington State. My background as a VP at General Motors for a number of years, which really gave me my foot in the door with auto, and it kind of gets in your blood and it's a sickness, and I absolutely love being in the car business. So Janelle, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Good morning or good afternoon. My name is Janelle Borseth, and I'm the Consumer Lending Manager at Sound Credit Union. I am approaching my 25th year at Sound Credit Union. I thoroughly enjoy my job, and I do it because I have a passion for financial literacy and helping our members succeed, helping our members find what they need and best fits them and in their life. I started out in 1999 working as a teller, worked my all the way up, and really when I narrowed it down, like I said, my passion was in lending. You don't know what you don't know. You know, we all have to buy a car, we all have to buy a house, we all have to, you know, have an emergency travel to go see family. There's all sorts of things that we need a loan for, we need lending for, and we need a credit union for. So one of the things that I really, really love is being able to be that advocate for our members, kind of literally get in front of them, get them there. It all starts with credit. It all starts with a credit score. And you don't know what credit is, right? Unless credit's not taught or you've learned from your parents or a family member. So I really like being able to join. So thank you to UW Tacoma for allowing us to be here to present and be able to answer questions and be able to provide you some knowledge to be able to suit you going forward through your career and out there.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Kavanaugh. I'm a lead consumer loan specialist at Sound Credit Union. Echo what Janelle's saying. Thank you for having us here today and attending. I know the weather is beautiful outside. We're lucky again. I've been with the credit union for 13 years. I started in a branch as a part-time teller, and now I work in our consumer lending department to help support Kathy's team and Janelle's team. So I work with members to accomplish their goals financially. That includes building budgets, learning about credit, how to pay their debts off, how to obtain the things that they're looking for, which includes cars. So I look forward to going over this with you, and I hope that you all are actively participating. Ask those questions, and we're happy to answer them for you.
Okay, ready? Okay, so here's how this is gonna roll. So I'm gonna be with you guys for about the next 40 minutes, and then I've gotta get back to County City Building because I'm in the middle of jury selection. So I get to do my civic duty, and I hope all of you are registered voters and y'all get to do the same someday. So with that said, we're gonna talk about what do you need to know before you go shopping for a vehicle or a motorcycle or a boat or an RV or anything that's gonna require credit, even a house. These are the kind of things that you're gonna need to know. You wanna know what can you afford, right? You hear that, you got a champagne taste on a beer budget. It's kind of the same thing. Oftentimes we'll see people wanna go out and buy this brand new car for 60 grand, but they're making $18,000 a year, right? That doesn't pencil, it doesn't make any sense. So you have to know what can you afford, what does your budget look like? What does your household expenses look like, and kind of walk through all of that. One thing we seem to forget sometimes is the cost of insurance. And can I show of hands, how many of you are paying car insurance right now? Everybody, and you all have seen increases. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but we've all seen cost of insurance is going up and up and up. And a lot of that has to do with folks that don't have insurance or causing claims or causing issues. And just kind of the temperament of our environment right now is causing those cost insurance premiums to really be inflated in cost. Then of course, gas mileage, right? We're all hearing about the EV vehicles, we're hearing about battery operated, all those different types of things. The hybrids, it's a mix of flex fuel. And really, what is that gonna cost you? Back when I started driving, I'm gonna date myself here, I remember I paid 79 cents a gallon for fuel. Okay, that was a long time ago, because we've got like a 4 or a 5 in front of that number now, right? And so it really is a different expense. And we tend to forget that when we're wanting to go buy those big trucks or that nice big V8 engine that I love the sound of, right? It's like, what's that gonna cost me at the end of the day to go to work? Just to get to my job, how many gallons am I gonna burn? Is it gonna cost me 15 bucks or is it gonna cost me a gallon? What's it gonna be? So we have to figure that into the equation as well. And then finally, cost of maintenance, oil changes. There's some really great dealerships out there that offer oil change, lube oil filter for life. What does that really mean? Reading the fine print. You have to get your checkups done with that dealership in order to take advantage of those services. And then of course, is it that synthetic fuel that you only can go to the dealer for because you got that really cool Audi and you've got to go to the dealer and now that oil change just costs you $300 because you can't go to the grease monkey for $59.99. So all of those are things that you really want to think about, and as you're out shopping for a car, you kind of start thinking about what it is that you want. And then of course, the old buy versus lease. Buying a vehicle, if you kind of put it in your brain and think about it, when you're buying a vehicle, you're buying all 4 tires, right? You're buying all 4 of them. When you lease a vehicle, you're only going to lease what you're going to use. So you really got the first half of the car because you're not buying it, you're only buying a percentage of the car. But those are things that can get a little complicated, and that's really not what we're going to kind of get into today, but we are going to talk about what it is that you need to know, what do you need to prepare for, and it starts with your credit score.
How many people know what their credit score is? How many people like their credit score? How many people would like a better credit score? That should be every hand. A credit score, we all start in this world with a 0 credit score. There's nothing. So we always hear the term, we need credit for insurance, we need credit to buy a car, we need credit to buy a house. That's true. But how do you build credit? How do you build your credit to get to those things? There's things like a starter visas. There's things like first time buyer programs. There's all sorts of things out there to get you going. There's also co-signers where you have a co-applicant, which is usually a lot of times typically your parents where they're actually signing the contract with you to get you maybe a better rate. Without that co-signer, you're usually tending to pay a higher rate because you are a higher risk, right? They don't know that dealership and that financial institution doesn't necessarily know how well you are going to make those payments. Are you going to make your payments on time? Are you willing to make those payments for the full 60 to 84 month term of that loan? When there's not an actual credit history on you, you tend to have a lower score. You have to have several different things on your credit to maximize your credit score. That being said, a lot of times you need to get credit ranges from 0 to 850. to have an 850 score, I've never seen anybody with an 850 score ever. Now, I've seen people get pretty high, but they also are been on that credit bureau for a very, very long time. They have a house mortgage loan, they have auto loans, they have previous auto loans, they have credit cards. So they have a very diverse credit formula on their profile, which tends to give them a higher score as they make their monthly payments on time. Your credit score tanks when you don't make your monthly payment on anything. So what I like to tell everybody is communication is virtue. You can't make your payment, don't run from your financial institution, don't run from your parents when you can't make that payment, because somebody has to make that payment. Yes, sir.
Does rental payment count when
Does-
you're paying rent for your house?
No, unfortunately, it does not. However, the industry is moving away from just using a basic FICO or a Vantage score, which is just your credit scoring module, into more of an AI credit scoring module, which will include your rental house, and it will include your utility payments, and it will include a lot of different things, your Verizon payment and your bill like that. So the industry is moving towards more of an AI kind of credit monitoring tool, which is huge, and I just can't wait for it to fully get here, because for years I say credit scores are credit scores. They're not really, like, they don't really justify who you are as a person, because it's not fair to somebody who does rent a house for the last 5 years, last 10, 15, 20 years for that matter, and not actually get credit on their thing when they've made a monthly payment. So I am looking forward to moving into that industry of like that kind of decision engine, but it is a big undertaking, and it's something I'm looking forward to doing and have been working on doing for quite some time.
So speaking of credit scores, does anybody know how many credit bureaus there are? Right, I heard 3. That is a good answer. There are 3 bureaus, so not every score will be the same. So you can go to one lender and they'll tell you your score is 700. But then you might go to apply somewhere else, your score is 670. You're like, why is it different? They're probably using different bureaus. And within these 3 bureaus, there are different score models. So it's important for you to use your resources. There's lots of resources out there like NerdWallet. There's information like Credit Karma to kind of watch that. A lot of credit card companies also do let you know what your credit score is. That's kind of a free monitoring. So those are great tools. Education is best. Educate yourself. What is a credit score? What's a good credit score? So as you're going out there to apply for credit, you kind of know what to expect.
Very good, thank you. So moving over towards also budgeting, right? You have to budget for a car. We all, like Kathy says, we all want that $60,000, $80,000 car, you know, it's like, I want it, but I don't have it myself. But we have to look at what we can afford. How long have we had our employment for, right? If we don't have employment, how are we gonna pay that monthly payment? You know, that month, you know, buying a car this month is great, right? It feels good. But we still have to pay for that 5 years down the road, 6, 7 years down the road. So that's something to consider when you're actually building a budget, looking for your vehicle, and determining what it is you need and how it is you need it, and how are you going to be able to pay for it.
How are you paying? So you could be saving up and you know exactly how much you want to spend and you'll be paying cash for it. So bravo for you for paying yourself first. That's a good budget to have. But you probably don't want to liquidate your entire savings. So then you might look for lending opportunities. So there are things that you could secure that loan with your collateral, which would be an auto loan. So that could be for EV vehicles, fuel powered vehicles. And it's something to look at, like there's different discounts that you may be able to receive for electric vehicles, different promotions. So take a look at that with your lenders too, to see what type of loan is appropriate for you and that works best for you, and the types of terms that you'll be looking at.
Okay, so while you're busy paying attention to your budget and kind of figuring out how much you can spend, you're also gonna want to think about what kind of car you want. You know, what's best for you? You know, if you're 6'4", you probably aren't gonna buy a Volkswagen, right? And if you're 5 feet tall, probably a full-size truck might not be the best option. So there's some common sense that goes into play there as well. What kind of vehicle you're looking for and what is it gonna be used for? Is it a commuter? Very elementary, simple stuff, but sometimes we get caught up in the bling and the flash of the vehicle. We don't pay attention to those things until it's a little bit too late. The other thing also is being online. I mean, you guys are the experts probably at the whole Google search thing and far better at it than I am. But there is so much information out there online, and it's really paying attention to whether they're sponsored ads or where that information is coming from. Automotive News is a great place to read about vehicles. Edmunds, Kelley Blue Book, JD Power, NADA. Those are all wonderful places to read about reviews of vehicles and really finding out what is going on. And if you're even going to be looking at, by Chevy or Ford, go to the manufacturer's website and read about what are the features, advantages, and benefits of that vehicle. How much legroom is in there? What kind of gas mileage are you going to get? What kind of problems have there been? What kind of recalls are out there on the vehicles that you're looking for? And then also making sure that you pay attention to that gas mileage. I talked about it before, but it's a big deal. That is the number one phone call I got from my son when he was in his early 20s. Mom, I need gas money. I just gave you gas money. Yeah, but Mom. So that is the number one thing. And I know Jen's over there laughing because she's got one of those boys too. It's like constant gas, gas, gas. And I sent gas money to my granddaughter. She turned 16 and she's got a car. And my daughter said, Mom, don't buy her crap to set in her bedroom or clothes to wear. Send her money for gas. So that's the big gift these days is, all about the fuel mileage and money. The other thing is also electric vehicle. Where are you going to charge it? How are you going to charge it? How much is it going to cost you to charge it? I think sometimes, we look at these vehicles that we're having to plug in and we tend to forget, okay, well, how far do I drive? And is my car going to get me there? And then once I get it there, I have to charge it before I bring it home. If you're coming from Tacoma to Seattle or whatever, where are you going to charge it at? At Sound Credit Union, our building we just moved into, we actually have a charging station in our garage. And I've got a couple of employees that one of them drives a Tesla and he plugs in and he's like, it's great. I can charge when I'm at work and I don't have to think about it. But that charger doesn't always come with the car. Sometimes it is an additional expense, the cord to plug it in. And then how do you plug it in and how does it get wired to your, your fuse box or your power panel in your garage? It's not always included. I actually had a member call me, it's been a year or two ago, and she bought this really great electric vehicle and it had a charge on the battery and she took it off the lot and left. Well, she got stuck out on Highway 18 with a dead battery and no way to charge it. And the towing company shows up and he goes, oh, you have one of these. And so she was like, well, wait, I can't charge it. How do I do this? Well, she had to go back to the dealership to buy the charging mechanism. And that's kind of shame on the dealer for not making sure that she had what she needed when she left. But those are all added expenses and knowing what you're going to be getting and what you need. So the first thing is, how many of you actually have cars right now? A good chunk of you. Have any of you ever traded in a vehicle before? Traded in? Painful experience, right? Yeah, Janelle's going to talk to you about trading in your vehicle.
So one of the things about trading in your vehicle, we don't want two payments, right? You want a new car or your existing car, you don't have to actually have that loan for the life of that loan. You have the ability to trade it in and you also have the ability to sell it outright, private party purchase. Most people tend to do the trade-in option because they don't have to worry about transferring the title, making sure that their name's off that title, and such where they don't have to worry about the money transfer, the cash going back and forth with somebody that they've never met or seen or going to see again. So trading in your vehicle at the dealership is usually the best option to go. So before you do that, you need to know, what is your payoff? How much do I owe on this vehicle? What is the value of my vehicle? Is it actually beneficial for me to purchase a new vehicle and trade this in? Because as we buy a car, the cars lose appreciation on the car. So it may be valued when you purchase it at $12,000, but 3 months go by and now all of a sudden JD Power is saying it's only valued at $9,000. You might feel robbed of that $3,000 because you're like, well, just valued at $12,000. What do you mean it's $9,000? But you might need to hold on to it for another 18 months before that value actually increases. Those are all determined. Values are determined by total losses, how many vehicles are sold, how many vehicles are still running on the road. So we actually, as people, have no control over what our vehicle is valued. We're based off of the economy and what the economy is doing with those vehicles. So we want to you want to know all this before you go, right? You don't want to go blindly into any dealership. You want to know. I can't tell people enough, like, do your homework, do your research. Get a 10-day payoff, know what you owe, know your payoff address, know your institution. What is that value? Because if you walk in there and they say, oh, I can give you $6,000 for your car, and you're like, wonderful, great, take it. But you owe $10,000 on it. What are you gonna do with that other $4,000? How are you gonna pay for that other $4,000? Dealership will tell you, no problem. roll it in. We can roll it in, which is a great benefit for consumers, that you can roll in your negative equity into your new loan if it fits into that new loan parameters. But is it always the best thing to do that? Maybe, maybe not. It depends how long you actually keep your cars. I am one who keeps my car forever, right? I bought a brand new car in 2015, still have that car and still love that car. But there's people like Kathy over here, my dear friend Kathy, who every
Can't
6
help
months
it.
she says, I need a new car. I hate my car.
I can't help it, man, I'm telling you.
My legs just don't fit right in it. I don't like it. I'm sitting too low, I'm sitting too high. So every 6 months, she's going, I need a new car, I'm going to trade it in. So she has to go and do her homework and kind of pay attention to what it is, the value of her car, how much she just lost on that car, and what is she willing to take a loss?
I don't lose money on cars.
No, you don't. But are you willing to? A lot of people do. A lot of people do. Because they're not necessarily knowing what the value is on that car. So your car can be valued at 10, but if they say, I'll give you 6 for it, and you're like, okay, that's a deal that you made, and it's a legal deal. So there's nothing wrong with what that car dealership is doing. They're just saying, I'll buy your car for $6,000. So it's you go and you counter them and say, you know what? My car's actually worth $8,900, and here, I'll show you it's worth $8,900. And I guarantee you, they're like, oh, well, let's talk. I might be able to give you a little bit more. What do you have for me?
Is it common to see dealerships that have like value match prices, like, hey, Kelly Blue Book valued my car at this much, can you match that? Or do they just have their own?
Sticker price? A lot of car dealerships are moving to sticker price, like this is what we're selling the car for, this is what we believe the car is valued, and these are the things that come with the value. I'll let Kathy speak a little bit more on that piece of it and the value.
So the car dealers will they'll give you a wholesale. Anybody in here ever worked at a car dealership? Okay, so that they're gonna value it at wholesale. They're not gonna give you the retail price for it. It's like when you go and buy a pair of jeans, that, whether it's Buckle or whoever, they paid a wholesale price for it. They're marking it up and they're selling it to you at retail. It's the same thing with the car business. They're in it to make money. The most important thing is that you also look at the Carfax to find out what has happened to that car. Find out if it's been in accidents, those sorts of things. But the dealership will have their set, the MSRP, if it's a new vehicle that's set by the manufacturer. They don't have a lot of wiggle room on that, but when it's a used vehicle, there is a little bit more. And they'll say, well, I've got, say the vehicle's priced at $11,000. They'll say, well, I've got 10,000 into it. I can't discount a whole lot more. That's because what they paid for that vehicle comes into play for them and how much money they're wanting to make on that vehicle. So it really becomes a dollars and cents game, and that's why it's so important to really pay attention to what it is that you're picking out. Do your research, do a lot of looking. Don't just stay inside your one little, your trading area. Get outside of the box. Get outside of Tacoma. Get outside of Pierce County. Go see what's out there, so you can kind of get a really good sampling and the variety of different pricing on vehicles that's out there. Yes.
Would it be better then to sell it yourself instead of doing a trade-in?
That's a good question, and I will tell you there are risks with that, right? Doing called a private party purchase, there's a lot of advantages there, but it also can be a little bit cumbersome because they're going to want to drive the car. You're going to let them drive off with your car. They're going to want to go get it taken to a mechanic, which you should always get a car checked out at a mechanic before you buy it if it's a used vehicle. But there are challenges. Then you got to go to wherever you're financing it. It all depends on the person and how much time they're wanting to invest. For me personally, I'm like, man, I don't have time for that. But I have a sister that sells her cars all the time, private party purchase, and she always makes more money on because she's got the time to do it. So what's your time worth really is what it comes down to. So
one of the things I want to add in really quick about a private party purchase is if you go and you find this perfect car from the guy that's selling it down the road and you make the deal and your transaction's done and then you walk out and then you see him go into the back of the car and he unscrews his license plate and he takes it off. He has every right to take that license plate off. And it really throws a consumer for a loop. And they're like, wait, what are you doing? I need that license plate. And they're like, no, that's mine. You bought the car, not the plate. And then you are stuck driving away with no license plate on that car. Now you have paperwork to prove that you own it and you just purchased it. And legally you have 15 days to actually transfer the title. So you're not in any legal trouble by doing so. But let's say you finance that vehicle. Private party purchases can be financed. Now you're working with the state of Washington and your financial institution to actually transfer that title. And you can be without a license plate for up to 2 to 3 months, depending on payoffs, sales, transfers, how busy is the state of Washington at parsing that tile? When is it getting mailed out? And then you're stuck with a car that you just purchased without a license plate, paying every 3 days for 3-day trip passes. So that is the responsibility of a consumer itself, and I say all the time. Now, they don't have to take the plate, but they can take the plate. And a lot of them are being instructed to take the plate off of that vehicle because it allows them, you drive over the Narrows Bridge or an HOV lane and you going through, that previous legal owner is the one that's being charged for that until that title transfers. So that's what that legal owner that's selling that car is avoiding and trying to avoid is any additional costs that may come after the fact of selling that car.
Thank you, Janelle, for talking about the tolls, because yes, if you do not remove your plate when you trade it in or sell your car, private party, that is what's gonna be looked at, is the plate number. So you're gonna have to go time after time after time to dispute that. Does anybody know how to support yourself when you're going to dispute those? Any ideas what else you can do if you trade in or sell your vehicle? So the state of Washington wants you to report that sale. And in this, I believe it's about 13 to 15, it may have gone up now. On the Department of Licensing website, you'll report the sale of your vehicle, whether it's to a private party, a person, or to a dealership. That way you can provide that document that says on this day, I released my interest in this vehicle, I sold it or traded it in some place. That will help you if that were to occur, that, hey, I got a toll bill, that's not mine, I got rid of the car. So make sure that you're doing that as well.
So this is where we get to the fun part, we get to talk about car dealerships. How many of you love to go to car dealerships? Nobody? I'm the only one? Oh, yeah, got you. No, it's fun. I mean, it's weird, right? You pull up in the lot and, you know, people are looking at you, they wanna run out your car, how you doing? And they've got all these little, you know, jargon things for, you know, buyers are drivers and drivers are liars and all these kinds of things. But really, we are really fortunate here in the Puget Sound area. We've got some fantastic families that own big car dealerships. The Gilchrist family on South Tacoma Way in Port Orchard, Harnish, Sunset Family Auto Group is a really huge partner with Sound. We also have Titus Will, they're in it, Bill Pierre. I mean, the list goes on and on of some really fantastic families that own some really strong, stable, long-term dealerships that I remember going to these lots when I was a little girl with my dad, you know, kicking tires, looking at cars at night because he couldn't stand going in the daytime when the salesmen were there. So he'd go at night, we'd walk around and check out all the cars. But car dealerships can, you know, get a little bit of a bad rap because once you get there, there's a little bit of a, you know, feel pressured. They want you to get in the car. They figure if you're gonna get in the car and drive it, you're gonna buy it. You don't have to do that. You can go on the lot and say, no, I'm looking, you know, we're just looking. The problem is for the salesman that just talked to you, well, you're his up, right? So you're the next consumer on the lot, the sales manager's sitting over there, oh, yeah, that gal out there in the jean jacket, that's yours. Tony, go get her, sell her a car, right? Well, now Vanessa is gonna be like, no, I'm just looking, I'm here, I'm just killing time on my lunch. But that's his opportunity to make a paycheck to buy his kid new school shoes. So that's why there's that pressure, because nine out of 10 of them, if not even higher than that, they're probably 9.9, they're all commission based. So it's all based upon that sale of that car. And that sale gets split between sales and finance and whatnot, and depending upon how the structure of the dealership is. But with that said, before you leave to go out and start shopping for cars, look on their websites. I mean, you guys, we've talked about Google search. Look at the Google reviews. That's what you're gonna learn the most about those dealerships, or friends that have had good experiences. Talk to your buddies, talk to your parents, talk to your neighbor. Where'd they get their car? Where was their great experience? If someone's had a bad experience, listen to it, find out what was going on, but then also do your own research, because one bad apple shouldn't spoil everything, right? One thing that I would caution you about is the real tiny, small, you know, the really, really, really little ones that don't have a whole lot of presence on their lot. As far as vehicles are concerned, there's a lot of used car lots up and down South Tacoma Way and all over the place. But a lot of times with those, you don't necessarily get the warranties. You might not necessarily get the pre-checks that need to go into it. We call it reconditioning. And if the car is not super clean when you get into it on the lot, you might want to hesitate before even driving that car for a test drive. And I'm just being really honest with you, I'm being very transparent. Because if they haven't done the reconditioning to invest a little bit of time in that vehicle, are you really sure it's going to run really well when you get down the road? right? So pay attention to those things. And if your hackles go up a little bit, you gotta listen to that stuff. You know, your intuition is usually pretty right. The other thing is to really pay attention to look at rebates. If you're gonna be buying a new vehicle, there are some really reasonably priced new vehicles out there, believe it or not. Not everything has to be 40, 50, 60 grand. There are some vehicles out there that are lower priced that are actually really good. But do take the time to look at the manufacturers or the OEM, their websites, and find out what are the rebates, what promos do they have out there. You know, dads and grads are coming up here in June. There's always lots of money sitting out there for recent graduates, Father's Day. There's military benefit. You know, they'll give you an extra $500 or $1,000 if you're a veteran or if you're active duty. Lots of different ways. They even do sometimes first responders or volunteers. Those rebates and promotional products are a big deal when it comes down to figuring out your bottom number, because that bottom number is what you're paying interest on. So the more opportunity you can to get some kind of an incentive to reduce that purchase price is money in your pocket over the long haul. The other thing too is pay attention when you're on those websites, whether it's Carfax or even, bless you, Car Gurus. Car Gurus is kind of a cool site. Bless you again. Car Gurus is one that's neat because all of the dealerships participate in that. And what will happen is if you're looking for, you know, say you're looking for a Ford F-150 truck and you put that into the search engine on Car Gurus, it's going to show you all of the Ford F-150s within a certain radius of your location. It's not necessarily just the buy here, pay here. It's not necessarily just the used lot. It's not necessarily just the Ford dealership. It is everybody that has decided to advertise their truck on there. It could be an independent, it could be private purchase, or it could be a big franchise. So there's a really good place to go to find those sorts of vehicles that you're looking for, but make sure that you pay attention to, is it on the lot? Is it in transit, or do you have to order it? There was a time not long ago during the pandemic where you could not get your hands on a new truck. It was really, really hard. They were having chip problems and all sorts of issues. And now there's trucks sitting everywhere that they're just trying to sell the heck out of. So it's really important to pay attention to that. Is it available today, or is it in transit? Are you going to have to wait? And then finally, one thing I didn't make a comment about when talking about those rebates and promotions, when you see the rebate on that website, make sure you print it out. You may have more knowledge about it than the finance manager does. Those guys are moving paper around an awful lot, and sometimes they may miss one that's out that they just are not aware of. So it's important when you sit down to have the conversation about rebates and say, hey, you know, I'm graduating this month, you know, or I'm a dad, dads and grads, you know, here's an extra $500, here's $1,000, whatever it is. It's just money in your pocket. And then of course, AutoSmart and Carfax. Those are ones where you can punch the VIN number in, and I think the first one's free. I'm not really sure how they're paying for the service for that anymore, but you can find out if that car's been wrecked before or not, or if it's got water damage. A lot of times after we go through a storm season down south, whether it's tornadoes or hurricanes, or if they have like some really big hailstorms in Texas, hailstorms can damage cars like you would not believe. It causes big problems for dealerships in those areas that get the golf ball hail, and we'll end up getting a bunch of those cars here. When we saw, was it Hurricane Katrina several years ago, we saw an influx of cars that had flood damage. They just had to get them out of there. And it was the car dealerships putting those vehicles on tractor trailers and getting them out as quick as they could. And some of them didn't get out as fast, you know, trying to move them, get them out. So they end up with some water damage, or they could have a branded title. And that's something that's important that we'll talk about later. But it's important to pay attention to the AutoSmart and the Carfax.
It also tells you how many owners there were previously. It tells you if it's minor or major damage, right? Because you could have a car insurance claim on the door of your car, and now your car is branded with a previous accident. But is that really like losing value on the vehicle? No, not necessarily. So you want to pay attention to those things on the AutoSmart or the Carfaxes and the AutoSmart. Bye-bye,
Well,
Kathy.
I got to talk about the fun stuff. So y'all have a good time. I'm gonna go do my civic duty and maybe or maybe not put somebody in jail. Who knows? I don't know. All right, thank you, everybody. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. But do pay attention to those. I can't tell you enough. That is literally like your Bible to car buying is those Carfaxes. You really need one of those. Almost every dealership will offer them to you for free. If they don't, they'll say you can purchase it for $15 for a limited for the month or such. It's a little bit different wherever you're at, but do make sure that you do those, because once you buy a car, you bought that car, you have contracted on that car, and there's no going back. There's no going back and saying, hey, after I got home, so-and-so told me about this $500 discount I could have got. And they're gonna be like, well, sorry, we should have talked about that prior to you signing that contract. Or, hey, I just got home and then I pulled this and I realized this car's been in 4 accidents. How am I ever gonna sell this to anybody? It's been in 4 accidents. And they're like, not my problem. Not my problem. So, and it really isn't their problem, because you negotiated that car, that price, and that deal, and signed that finance contract. So it really is your car at that point.
We're gonna be heading in to elaborate on those subjects, but I also want to kind of circle back with your trade-in, tell you a quick story. So my husband had a big Ram that was not gonna work for his commute from Fording to JBLM. So he thought, you know, this is not a good buy. And I thought, okay, well, then you could just park it on the side of the house. We'll just use it when we need a truck, but you need a commuter car. So he did, bought himself a Ford Fusion. And it was all great until about 2 weeks after we bought it. He was lightly rear-ended, which just caused a crack in his bumper, but he had to get some sensors replaced. So that cost was actually much greater than we expected. So that caused our insurance premiums to go up a little bit because he was hit by somebody who is not insured. The other thing is that my husband decided he doesn't really like that car. He's a tall guy. So he was just kind of like shooting at the hip. He's like, I just really want to get like a commuter car, because the gas bill is killing him. So he's like, I really don't want this car. It's just not working out for me. I go, okay, let's shop around. So we went to the Hyundai dealership, and there was a hybrid vehicle that he was very much interested in. So we sit down, start going through the process, says, I want to trade in my Fusion. And that little accident greatly depreciated how much they were willing to give us for that vehicle. So, and they did, they turned around and said, showed it right on their little Carfax. So be aware of any little accidents that you have and know what's on your vehicle. Also ask to see what's on that vehicle as well for a used vehicle, because it will greatly impact how much you'll get for it or how much negotiating room you'll have. So bear with me, I just got this. I'm not sure if it's left or right here. Oops, other way. All right, here we go.
Don't be shy, know what you're looking at. Know what you're looking at, know what you're going for. I say don't just walk into a dealership without knowing what it is you're actually looking for. If you're looking for a Honda Accord, you need to look at Honda Accords before you actually go into that dealership. Know that this dealership lists 3 for sale, so I'm gonna go check those out. But I also know that this dealership down the road has a few I wanna check out. So know what you're gonna go for. What are your needs on that car? Do you need auto start? Do you need remote start? Do you need electric? Do you want just to key in? A lot of vehicles now, if you look at some of the brand new Jeep Wranglers, they're great, right? But they don't have auto door locks. So you've got to get in, lean over, and unlock that door. My daughter was looking for a Jeep. She gets in and she says, well, what's this, Mom? And I said, well, that rolls your window up and down. She said, but it's brand new. And I said, yeah, that's how they used to be. But now they're bringing back some of these older things because they actually make the vehicles a little bit more reasonable, right? But yet she was just looking at, I can get this brand new Jeep for this price. Well, then when she started looking at all these things that came with it, she says, no, I don't think I want that. Like, I won't be happy. And I was like, you're right, you won't be happy. So let's leave this lot and then we will go home and we'll continue looking for some used vehicles that she could afford with the items and values that she needed and wanted on that car.
Yep, so figure out what features you really like. So recently when I bought the car I have now, I am the type of person, I'll drive it till the wheels fall off. And that's pretty much what happened because my car was totaled when I took it in to get my brakes inspected. They took it for a test drive and somebody plowed into my car while the mechanic was driving it around. Yep, totaled my car. So I was on the market for a new car, but I thought to myself, if I'm gonna get a new car early, I'm gonna have the features that are non-negotiable for me. So silly as it may be that I did want a sunroof in Washington, I did want heated seats. I'm getting older, my back hurts all the time. So those are some of the things I wanted. And I also like the push start too, which in hindsight, maybe that wasn't the greatest idea, but it's a Hyundai, so it worked out great because the key start, not so good. Thanks, Kia boys. But these are the things we want to be prepared for. What things do you absolutely want? Think about it. You're spending anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000. What is that price tag gonna get you? What are your non-negotiables? Where are things you're like, it'd be nice to have a sunroof, but I've been looking all day. It's really not that great. Weather here in Washington, not fabulous. Today's not a good example of that, but most of the time it's closed. So think about the features you want. Also, when you're looking at, get the car inspected, do that. If you're about to drop a good amount of money on it, you're gonna be paying $300 to $500 a month. Do you wanna make sure that that vehicle is gonna run properly for you? Probably, you're gonna be pretty frustrated if you're like, I have to have a transmission repair. That's $6,000. We don't wanna run into those expenses. It's better that you pay $125 or whatever at a mechanic to have it looked at so that you know what other mechanical issues there might be that you can't see just by looking at that vehicle. Okay.
Sometimes you could be at a dealership and they may say, you may drive in a car and it's like tick, 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 and they'll go, don't worry about that, I'll get that fixed. And you're like, really, what is it? They're like, oh, it's just this, I'll get it fixed. And you're like, okay, no big deal, they're gonna get it fixed, right? So you go back to that finance dealership, finance office, and you're negotiating the price, you sign that dotted line, they promise that they're gonna fix it and everything, but they didn't give you anything in writing that they're gonna fix it, right? They do have like sometimes you can get a pink slip where it's basically like a promissory note saying, hey, bring your car back and we'll get this fixed. Other times it's just verbal, we'll fix it for you. But you drive away with that tick, 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 and then come back next week when it's convenient because you had to leave the dealership really quick and didn't have time and they didn't have anybody, it was closing. You come back and they're gonna be like, what are you talking about? You bought it as is. So be very careful and diligent about an as is used vehicle because it is as is. Everything you drove away with is exactly what you purchased. Now you can purchase a service warranty and some vehicles come with an actual warranty from the manufacturer. They're basically very different things. One of them is the manufacturer's warranty where it covers for a certain amount of mileage or years, whichever comes first. And then they will condition the car to whatever is in that actual warranty. It's not everything. Don't think it's everything. And then there's different service contracts that you can actually purchase with the vehicle yourself outside and on top of that warranty. So just because you already have a warranty that comes with that newer car that you just purchased, a service contract doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to be utilized, right? What you need may not be covered in that warranty where your service contract actually covers it. So there is a lot of times like, oh, I don't need a service contract because my car has a warranty. And then you drive away and you're like, oh, warranty doesn't cover that. So do pay attention to what your warranty covers, how long it is, and how many miles it is and what comes first. So that's a big one.
Something to add on to that. So we have some pretty long manufacturer's warranties. So let's say you're buying this car, the manufacturer's warranty is $120K, right? Front to back, covers everything. But you're also the second owner of that vehicle. This is something I learned the hard way too. Is that check out the manufacturer's website because they do have conditions on their warranties by ownership. So you may not be entitled to that full warranty as a second or third owner. So that is something to be looking at and to consider when you're purchasing used vehicles. And also ask the dealership about their service warranties as well. If you think, you know what, I only have about 30,000 more miles, and if you do your mileage from school to home or work or whatever, you know about your average miles, because you have to tell your insurance company that too, right? What's your average mileage? So think about that.
Can I make
Also-
a comment?
Yes.
With the gap tank, when people buy a new cars, you have the one for the car, right? So you have like a guarantee in your car for, I think, for a year or 5 years. And dealerships don't tell you that, so they make you buy the gap, so you're paying the double and you don't even know, you know?
Right. So that's important. Check out what that manufacturer's warranty is. Also ask your financial institution if they offer one too. because a lot of financial institutions, including Sound Credit Union, we offer warranties as well. And you can compare them. They're not always apples to apples. See what it covers. Do your research on the vehicle. What are the common problems? Should I get a service warranty just in case? Because you don't want to drop $6 grand on something that you're like, oh, I had that service contract, maybe I'd only pay like $100 deductible.
I
And
have
then
one
some
more
shop-
questions about that. Like, I have a credit union and I have worked in a dealership. So it is better for me to go and get that car from the dealership or go with the credit union?
For financing?
Yes.
So it depends. So the dealership may have like their in-house financing where you get special rebates, discounts, or special financing. So right now, the economy is not really great, but 2.99% isn't like anything that you'll find right now for rates. However, manufacturers know that, so maybe on their new inventory that they're trying to move off the lot, we'll give you 2.99% for 60 months. Look for that.
Yeah.
Because if you qualify for that, that's obviously better for your pocket than it would be for a financial institution. But also financial institutions have deals as well.
So one of the things too would kind of go off of what your question is should I purchase through the credit union or should I go to the dealership and actually finance that vehicle? I like to know before I go. So for me, myself, and what I kind of educate people on is literally apply, know what your credit score is, know what you can afford, know, are you going to get approved for this? Is my credit union going to finance this vehicle for me? And what is my payment going to be? So I like to know all those things before I go, so I can walk into that dealership, go to that car that I'm looking at, test drive it, I like it, and I say, okay, here, I'm pre-approved, right? And then I give them my pre-approval letter that I have from Sound, and they say, great, we have this program named Cuddle, which is Credit Union Direct Lending, and he says, I'll send your loan to Sound Credit Union, or I'll send it to BCU or WSCCU or wherever it is you're asking them to go to. So that's with your benefit that you have, knowing that rate, what your rate and payment and everything's gonna be and where your loan's actually going to live, right? By doing it that way. Now, you can always still not be pre-approved, and you can go to the dealership and you can go to their financing office, and they have hundreds and hundreds of financial institutions that will buy their loans. So you're not alone. You don't just have to go to your financial institution to actually apply first. Now, if you apply at your credit union, do know that we will be pulling your credit, and then it will be an inquiry on your credit report. When you go to the dealership, they are required to pull your credit again, regardless if you are pre-approved. So don't be surprised if you've got 2 inquiries on your credit report, one from your financial institution and then one from the dealership. But either way is both. We do have a contract with Cuddle, who is a program that's in between, you know, the financial institution and the dealerships. We work really well with our dealerships and have a really good relationship with them to allow all that.
So speaking of loans, another thing that you'll see on there is GAP, so guaranteed asset protection, that covers your loan. And up to a certain percentage, so make sure you're asking your financial institution if they offer it and what it actually covers at the dealership as well, and those are negotiable. You're not required to get those, but it is something to consider looking at your loan to value.
I know we're running out of time, you guys. Can I answer any questions before we kind of let you guys all out of here? I'd like to make sure we get your questions answered. We have.
Yeah, I had to buy a new car last year, and obviously the rates were a lot higher than they are currently. And when I went and I was shopping around to different credit bureaus, and I was told that if I have the car for a year, you can just refinance and then the rates will be lower, so you should have a lower interest rate. Is that typically always true, and how often should you refinance?
You can refinance your car at any time. You do not have to wait 3 months or 12 months or 36 months. At any time, you have that right to refinance your car. Now, depending on what your credit score is and what your not necessarily your finances, but what your credit score is gonna depend what your rate is, right? But there's fair credit lending. So no matter what, if you're a 700, anybody with that 700 score is gonna get that same rate. So rates aren't deciding on who you are, it's really what your credit score is. So a lot of times they say, let the dust settle. I tell people, let the dust settle. So your credit score goes back up, and then it shows your payment history and shows. So if you walk into Sound Credit and they go, oh, she's had this car for 12 months and she's made the payments perfectly good, I'm willing to make the bet that we're gonna be just fine with her. Let's refinance it and get this over to Sound and lower her monthly payments, and you're in a better financial position. So at any time you can do that.
Well, thank you everyone for coming today. If you fill this out, please bring it to me before you leave. And also, they'll be staying around for a few minutes if you wanna go up and ask any questions, okay?
Yes. Thank
So
you.
Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you guys.
Thank you all.